You're standing in front of the produce section, reaching for a tomato without a second thought. But you absolutely should be thinking twice, because in some American supermarkets, that tomato isn't what you believe it is. You assume it's fresh and maybe even locally grown, but that's rarer than you think, and the price tag can lie better than a politician on the campaign trail. Stay with me until the end, because I'm about to expose 5 supermarkets you should avoid when buying vegetables. And believe me, the #1 spot on this list will come as a shock to practically everyone. Spoiler alert, it's not the store you're probably thinking of right now. Before we dive in, let's be perfectly clear about one thing. We aren't talking about food poisoning scandals or horror stories of expired meat being left on the shelves. This is about something far more subtle. It's about freshness, about where your vegetables truly come from, the real relationship between price and quality, and all the little tricks supermarkets use to make you think you're getting a fantastic deal. You're not. We'll start with number 5 on our list, and this might catch you off guard. Coming in at number 5 is Walmart. It's a retail giant with enormous stores and a seemingly infinite selection of products. The prices look pretty good at first glance, at least until you take a closer look. The first major issue is the origin of the produce. Take a moment to check where the vegetables at Walmart actually come from. You'll see labels for Mexico, Chile, Peru, and Israel, all thousands of miles away. This would be perfectly acceptable if the quality was outstanding, but it often falls short. A tomato grown deep in Mexico needs a minimum of 3 days just to arrive on an American store shelf, and frequently it takes much longer. These tomatoes are picked when they are still green and unripe, with the idea that they will ripen during transit. Does that sound clever? It's complete nonsense. Tomatoes that are picked before they're ripe will never develop their full, rich flavor. They might turn red, but they will taste like cardboard. You know that feeling when you bite into a supermarket tomato and wonder why it tastes like absolutely nothing? Now you know why. Walmart has another problem: its sheer size. These supercenters are so massive that managing inventory becomes a logistical nightmare. In an average Walmart, you can find over 3,000 different products, with around 500 of them being fresh fruits and vegetables. That is an absurdly large number, far too large to manage effectively. The result? The produce just sits there. A former manager of a Walmart produce department told me that their waste was so high, they were throwing out entire crates of vegetables every single day. But corporate headquarters demanded that the shelves always look full, so they would order more, knowing full well it would never all be sold. This isn't just a staggering waste of food, it's a problem for you, the customer. The vegetable you're buying might have been sitting in that store for much longer than it should have been. Then there's the price. Walmart heavily advertises its low prices, and sometimes they really are a bargain. But you have to pay close attention to the price per pound. A package of bell peppers for $4.99 seems cheap until you notice there are only 2 peppers inside. At a store like Aldi, you could get 3 for that same price. That's the trick. Big packaging, less product. You think you're saving money, but you're not. Here's a concrete example of what happened at a Walmart in Fresno, California. A display of carrots was marked with a sign that read, "From American Farms," implying local sourcing. However, the bulk shipping crate told a completely different story, listing their origin as the Netherlands. The same thing happened with potatoes in Boise, Idaho, which were labeled as American but were actually from Germany. Onions in Decatur, Illinois, were marked as local but came from Germany too. Cabbage in Gary, Indiana, was advertised as American grown but was shipped all the way from Macedonia. This wasn't just a series of one-off mistakes. The Trade Commission investigated 71 Kroger stores, which is about 1/3 of their entire chain in the region, and they inspected 215 batches of vegetables. They found serious problems in 27 of those stores. In total, they flagged 53 different batches of produce. The system was identical everywhere. The signs on the shelves proudly said, "Grown in the USA," while the shipping documents and bulk packaging clearly listed foreign countries of origin. The Office of Competition and Consumer Protection hit Kroger with a fine of over $3 million. Later, they added another penalty of nearly $31 million for unfair practices against more than 800 suppliers, including many fruit and vegetable farmers. That's a staggering total of over $34 million in fines. Kroger is great if you need to buy toilet paper in bulk. For fresh vegetables, you might want to go somewhere else. Coming in at number 4 is Save-A-Lot. This chain, owned by a European retail group, stands out for all the wrong reasons in both consumer protection reports and health department interventions. The main problems revolve around improper storage conditions and a general lack of freshness. For instance, consider what happened at a Save-A-Lot on Ironwood Drive in Lincoln, Nebraska. After a customer filed a complaint, the county health department showed up for a surprise inspection. They discovered that the store was operating and selling food as usual while undergoing major renovations. Construction dust and debris were settling directly onto the food products, including all the fresh fruits and vegetables. The director of the health department confirmed the intervention and ordered the store to be temporarily shut down. In another Save-A-Lot, this time in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the health department ordered the disposal of over 250 pounds of spoiled poultry and turkey meat after a customer reported it. The case was so serious it was referred to the district attorney's office. And while this incident involved meat, it exposes systemic problems with freshness control throughout the entire chain. The same procedures, or lack thereof, apply to the produce section. The Office of Competition and Consumer Protection found that a shocking 13.9% of all fruit and vegetable batches at Save-A-Lot were incorrectly labeled with their country of origin. That's one of the worst records among all major grocery chains. Worse than Aldi, which had 8%, worse than Lidl, with 8.9%, and worse than Albertsons, with 8.7%. Customers regularly complain about the quality of the vegetables at this chain, especially in their smaller, more remote locations. In July of 2018, Save-A-Lot had to recall frozen vegetables from the producer Greenfield Frozen Foods due to a risk of listeria contamination, the very same recall that affected Aldi and Dollar General. The pattern just keeps repeating itself. Save-A-Lot is expanding, but its quality control systems can't keep up. When 13.9% of your products have the wrong origin labels, it's not an accident. It's a failing system. The number 3 spot goes to Dollar General. Yes, I know. It's a classic American success story. Over 2,400 stores and still growing. And I genuinely root for American companies to succeed. But when it comes to their vegetables, we have a problem. The first issue is refrigeration. Dollar General is expanding at a dizzying pace, which is impressive, but the infrastructure just isn't keeping up. Many Dollar General stores are operating with outdated or inadequate cooling systems. I was in a Dollar General just outside of Chicago recently. I measured the temperature in the produce section. It was 57 degrees Fahrenheit. The optimal range is 39 to 43 degrees Fahrenheit. At 57 degrees, lettuce loses about 10% of its vitamins every single day. After just 3 days, it has practically zero nutritional value left, but it still looks okay on the shelf, and that's the whole point. An employee at a Save-A-Lot told me straight up that management knows the cooling systems are failing, but replacing the equipment would be a massive expense. For now, they're just patching things up wherever they can. Your vegetables are part of that patch job. The second problem is the frequency of deliveries. Save-A-Lot operates on a logistics model that is built entirely around cost cutting. What does that mean for you? Fewer deliveries, but in much larger batches. Many Save-A-Lot stores only get fresh produce every other day, and the smaller locations might only get a delivery every third day. If you're doing your shopping in the evening, that produce has been sitting there for a minimum of 48 hours. At Walmart, by contrast, most stores get daily deliveries. You can see and taste the difference. Then there's the issue of selection. Save-A-Lot is designed for convenience, small stores for quick trips, but there's a downside. Limited space for produce means a severely limited selection, and that selection is usually the most basic stuff from the cheapest possible suppliers. Don't walk in expecting to find organic options or locally sourced produce. You're getting the standard, mass-produced bulk, and that's fine if you know what you're buying. The problem starts when you think you're getting something more. Here's a specific case to prove my point. A frozen vegetable product called Country Skillet Veggies with Potato Wedges, sold by the store brand Heartland Harvest in 21-ounce bags, was recalled in July of 2018 due to the risk of Listeria contamination. The manufacturer, Midwest Frozen Packers, had used a potentially contaminated batch of corn. The FDA issued an official public health alert, and the products were immediately pulled from all Save-A-Lot stores across the country. A Consumer Protection Agency report from 2020 found a 9.1% rate of irregularities in the labeling of fruits and vegetables at Save-A-Lot stores, where imported produce was being passed off as American-grown. While this result was better than Kroger's, Save-A-Lot performed worse than Walmart, which had an 8% rate, and significantly worse than Trader Joe's, which came in at just 3.7%. On consumer forums and review sites, complaints from customers in different locations, places like Oakwood, Georgia, and Belleville, Illinois, regularly pop up about rotten and foul-smelling fruits and vegetables. Customers report finding mold on produce, spoiled tomatoes, and wilted lettuce just sitting on the shelves for days. The problem stems from the very format of Save-A-Lot: small stores that lack the proper refrigeration capacity for high turnover goods. Save-A-Lot does a lot of things right. Their expansion, accessibility, and prices on basic goods are impressive. But when it comes to vegetables, I recommend driving a little farther down the road. In the number 2 spot is Lidl. Yes, Lidl, the same one that advertises its high quality. Unbelievable prices, unbeatable quality is their slogan. And that's precisely why it's on this list. Because the promise is huge, but the reality is often complicated. The main issue with Lidl is the sheer inconsistency of its quality. In theory, Lidl has some of the best quality control standards in the entire industry. In practice, it completely depends on the store, the day, and even the specific delivery. I decided to run an experiment. For 2 weeks, I bought the exact same variety of tomatoes from the same Lidl. The first week, they were firm, delicious, and stayed fresh for 5 days. The second week, they were already soft in the store and had mold on them after just 2 days at home. The same price, the same product, a completely different level of quality. And that's the real issue. You have absolutely no guarantee of what you're going to get. In theory, Lidl has a strict inventory rotation system. Old stuff in the front, new stuff in the back. First in, first out. That's the theory anyway. In practice, especially during peak hours, the employees just can't keep up. The result? New vegetables get dumped right on top of the old ones. You want the fresher produce? You better be ready to reach way into the back of the shelf. Seriously, a former Lidl employee told me that they had procedures, but nobody ever actually checked if they were being followed. The only thing that mattered was making the shelf look full. How you accomplish that was your problem. This isn't a knock on the employees. It's a critique of a system that prioritizes appearance over actual quality. And then there's the whole marketing angle. Lidl spends a fortune on advertising its freshness and high standards. You see those beautiful photos of perfect vegetables, you hear those promises from local farmers, and then you walk into the store at 7 p.m. and see lettuce that looks like it's been through a war. The gap between the promise and the reality is the problem. Here's a concrete example. In 2022, a specific batch of salad potatoes was recalled. It was the 3-pound bags of the Primabelle variety, lot number L09/02, packed by the company Heartland Produce. They were recalled because they exceeded the maximum allowable level of chlorprothom. This is a substance that was banned for use on food crops by the EPA in 2020 because of its carcinogenic properties. The product was sold across 8 different states. In September of 2023, the Food and Drug Administration issued a warning regarding American-grown apples of the Lyle variety, lot number L30/09/25, sold at Lidl. They detected chlorpyrifos at a concentration of 0.12 milligrams per kilogram. That's 10 times higher than the EPA's legal limit of 0.01 milligrams per kilogram. Chlorpyrifos is a potent neurotoxin that the EPA banned for all food use in 2020. Another serious incident involved diced tomatoes sold under Lidl's own store brands, lot L327NDB, produced by an Italian-based supplier. The FDA ordered a full recall due to the possible presence of foreign objects. specifically pieces of plastic that could cause injury when eaten. A 2024 investigation by the Consumer Watchdog Foundation revealed the presence of 3 different pesticides in strawberries from Lidl, including cyantraniliprole, pyrimethamine, and bromide ion, along with 2 pesticides in their bell peppers, cyprodinol and fludeoxonil. Although the levels were within the EPA's legal limits, Lidl consistently ranks among the supermarket chains with detectable chemical residues on its produce. Lidl isn't inherently evil. It has good days and it has bad days. The problem is, you never know which kind of day you're walking into. And now for number 1. This one will shock you. The top spot goes to Walmart. Yes, Walmart, America's most beloved superstore. And before you start typing angry comments, hear me out, because what I'm about to say is backed by hard data. The main reason Walmart is number 1 on this list is because you're paying premium prices while thinking you're saving money. Walmart built its entire image on being the cheapest option, and for years it was. But that has changed. Your perception, however, has not. I did a detailed price comparison on produce. Walmart versus Lidl versus Aldi. Same products, same week. The results were staggering. Organic bell peppers. Walmart, $3.99. Lidl, $3.29. Aldi, $2.99. That's 33% more at Walmart than at Aldi for the identical product. Heirloom tomatoes. Walmart, $3.49 a pound. Lidl, $2.99. English cucumbers. Walmart, $1.29. Aldi, 99 cents. In every single category, Walmart was more expensive. Sometimes by 15%, sometimes by 40%. Yet people still believe they're saving money there. This is marketing genius, or depending on how you look at it, pure manipulation. Now here's something that really got under my skin. Walmart aggressively promotes American-grown products, plastering everything with red, white, and blue labels, and pictures of local farmers on the packaging. Sounds great, right? Let's take a closer look. I pulled out a magnifying glass and read the fine print. An American product at Walmart often just means it was packaged in the United States, not grown in the United States. Packaged. A tomato from Mexico, repacked in a California warehouse, officially becomes an American product. It's not illegal, but isn't it deceptive? Someone from Walmart's corporate office told me, off the record, that American grown is a marketing category, not a quality standard. They use it because it works on customers, but ultimately, they buy wherever it's cheapest and sell wherever they can make the most profit. Here's a specific example. Strawberries sold under Walmart's MarketSide brand, a popular American variety, priced at $4.99 a pound, were tested by a consumer watchdog group in May of 2024. They contain 7 different pesticides: azoxystrobin, cyprodinol, difenoconazole, fludeoxonil, captan, spirotetramat, and trifloxystrobin. Spirotetramat is suspected of having a negative impact on fertility, and while each substance individually falls within the EPA limits, experts warn about the cocktail effect. The toxicity can multiply when these different pesticides react with one another. And finally, freshness. I conducted my own test. I bought identical tomatoes from Walmart, Lidl, and Aldi on the same day, at the same time. After 3 days, the Aldi tomatoes were still firm, the Lidl ones were slightly soft, and the Walmart tomatoes already had brown spots. After 5 days, the Aldi tomatoes were still okay, and the Lidl ones were soft but edible. The Walmart tomatoes had mold. For a higher price, I got a product that spoiled the fastest. That is the very definition of poor value for your money. So why don't people see this? Because shopping at Walmart is a habit. You've been going there for years, you trust the brand, and that trust is costing you real money. Documentation from the Federal Trade Commission confirms systematic deception regarding the origin of vegetables at Walmart. Garlic from China was sold as USA grown in Fresno, California, in October of 2019. Potatoes from Canada were sold as American grown in Boise, Idaho, in February of 2020. Celery from Mexico was passed off as a local product in Tampa, Florida, in May of 2020. This scheme also included carrots from Canada across the Midwest, cucumbers from Mexico in the Southeast, and Savoy cabbage from Mexico in the Pacific Northwest. The chairman of the FTC stated directly that the violations were systematic and long-term in nature. Consumers who specifically wanted to buy American potatoes, tomatoes, or apples were frequently being misled. The result? A fine of over $15 million, the highest penalty ever levied in the history of American retail. An appellate court upheld that decision in March of 2024. Inspections of 263 stores nationwide revealed serious irregularities in 73 locations, meaning that a shocking 27.8% of the inspected stores had major problems. This wasn't an isolated incident either. Back in August of 2018, the FDA ordered a massive recall of frozen vegetables sold under the store's Winter Harvest private label. Both the 26-ounce and 16-ounce bags of their skillet vegetable mix were pulled from freezers due to the risk of contamination with Listeria monocytogenes bacteria. It was discovered that the producer, a major American food processor, had used a batch of potentially